Let me tell you about the time I realized my neighbor was, well, not entirely human. My name's Ella, I'm 29, and I live in a quiet little apartment complex. At least, it used to be quiet. It started with the sound. Every single night, around 3:33 a.m., I'd hear faint scratching coming from the other side of my bedroom wall. My neighbor's apartment. At first, I thought, oh, they've got mice or something. But it wasn't scurrying, it was deliberate, like someone dragging their nails across the wall, slow and steady. I knocked on their door the next morning, polite, you know? I'd only seen the guy a couple of times. His name's Victor, maybe mid-40s, always wearing a hoodie no matter the weather. When he opened the door, I immediately regretted knocking. His apartment smelled, not bad, exactly, but sterile. Like bleach, maybe? And his eyes, man, his eyes were bloodshot, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He just stared at me. Hi. I'm Ella, from next door. I've been hearing noises late at night. Is everything okay? He smiled, wide, too wide. I'm fine. Just a nocturnal hobbyist. Sorry if I disturbed you. And then he closed the door. Just like that. That night, the scratching didn't stop. It got worse. Louder. I could have sworn I heard him humming too, a low, off-key tune that made my skin crawl. I started losing sleep, and after a week, I'd had enough. I decided to do some snooping. Now, I'm not proud of what I did, but desperate times, you know? I slipped out of my apartment and into the hallway at 3 a.m. I pressed my ear to his door. The humming was clearer now, and it wasn't just him. There were other voices, whispering. Then, I saw it. His peephole, there was a faint glow coming from inside his apartment. Like, red light? My gut screamed at me to go back to bed, but curiosity got the better of me. I knelt down and peeked under the door. I still can't explain what I saw. The floor was covered in symbols, glowing red, like they were drawn with molten lava. Victor was kneeling in the middle of the room, his hoodie off, and his skin, it was gray. Like ash. His mouth moved, whispering some language I didn't recognize. And then, something moved. Something inhuman. It crawled across the ceiling, long limbs bending in ways that made me dizzy. I must have made a noise because suddenly, the whispers stopped. The light went out. And I swear, I felt his eye through the peephole, staring at me. Needless to say, I didn't sleep that night. And the next day, Victor was gone. His apartment? Empty. No furniture, no symbols, nothing. When I asked the landlord, he just looked at me like I was crazy and said, "There's never been a tenant in 3B.
Now, time for another story. Have you ever been in a situation where you know you shouldn't be there, but it's too late to turn back? Yeah, that was me last week. My name's Jake, I'm 35, and I work in an office building downtown. Pretty standard gig, except for the elevators. One of them is weird. It's unmarked, tucked away in a corner of the lobby. I'd never seen anyone use it before, and honestly, I assumed it didn't work. But last Tuesday, I was running late, and the regular elevators were packed. I figured, why not? Bad idea. The doors slid open, and I stepped inside. The interior was different. No buttons, just a touchscreen with a single option, sub-level 13. Now, I work on the 8th floor, so I hesitated. But then the doors closed on their own, and the elevator started moving. At first, I thought it was going up, but then my ears popped, and I realized we were going down. Fast. I pressed the emergency stop, but nothing happened. The touchscreen flickered, and suddenly, it wasn't showing sub-level 13 anymore. It was showing me. A live feed. I was staring at myself in the elevator, but there was something behind me, a shadow. I spun around, but the elevator was empty. When I turned back to the screen, the shadow was closer, and it had eyes. The elevator stopped with a jolt, and the doors opened. I'll never forget what I saw. It was like a mirror of my office, but wrong. The walls were covered in rust, and the lights buzzed like they were about to explode. There were people, too, sitting at desks, but their faces were blank. Just smooth skin where eyes, noses, and mouths should have been. I stepped out, and the door slammed shut behind me. No way to call the elevator back. I walked through the office, trying not to look at the faceless workers. Then I heard it. The sound of typing, but it wasn't coming from keyboards. It was wet, like bones cracking. One of the workers turned toward me, and even without a face, I knew it was looking at me.
Here's the last story. I grew up in a small town, the kind where everyone knows each other. So when a new street popped up out of nowhere, it didn't take long for people to start talking. I was 16 at the time, and my friends and I decided to check it out one night. Stupid, I know. The street didn't show up on any maps, and it wasn't connected to any of the main roads. It was just there, a narrow cobblestone path lined with old, crumbling houses. No lights, no cars, nothing. Just an eerie silence. We walked down the street, laughing and daring each other to knock on doors. But as we got further in, the laughter died. The air felt heavier, and the houses looked wrong. The windows were blacked out, and the doors were crooked, like they'd been twisted. Then we saw her. A woman standing under a flickering streetlight. She was wearing a long black dress, and her hair covered her face. My buddy Chris, always the idiot, yelled, "Hey, lady, nice night for a stroll, huh?" She didn't move, didn't even flinch. So we kept walking, but when I glanced back, she was closer. I didn't see her move. She was just there, and then she spoke. "Turn around." Her voice was low and raspy, like it was coming from inside my head. Chris laughed nervously and said, "Yeah, okay, we're out." But when we turned around, the street behind us was gone. Just a wall of black. Panic set in. We ran, but no matter how far we went, we couldn't get off that street. The houses seemed to stretch on forever. And the woman. She was always just behind us, whispering, "Turn around." Finally, we saw it. A single door, glowing faintly at the end of the street. We bolted for it, and when we burst through, we were back in town, standing in the middle of Main Street. But Chris wasn't with us. We went back the next day, but the street was gone. No one's seen Chris since. Thank you for listening to Twisted Tales. If you like these types of videos, please like, share, and subscribe. See you on the next video.